my wife Lily and I, we completely combined finances. So basically, right before we were getting married, we decided to get a joint account and go that direction. And so in the beginning, it's kind of easy because in some ways you're just literally transferring all your money into this one account, and there's not like a super complicated way of implementing it, but it sort of has its own complexities as we get farther down the road.
My wife Carolyn and I never actually had a real conversation about finances until we had to, until it came to a head.
So how do you find the right way to manage your money together? Welcome to the Couple Money Podcast, the show where we share stories and advice on building up your marriage and wealth together. I'm Elle Martinez. Support for this podcast comes from Jumpstart Your Marriage and Your Money Masterclass. This self-paced course is designed to help you get on the same page with money, dump your debt faster, and build wealth as a team. Sign up today for the course and get lifetime access. Just head over to couplemoney.com/jumpstart. As you heard at the top, Rami Sarageldin and Sam Schultz had different ways they were managing their money. They each had their own system, and of course it changed. Like many couples, they were looking for something that was just simple and worked. But unlike most of us, Rami, Sam, and their partner Joe Stanish decided to do something about it. I met them last year in San Diego about an idea they were working on, and then it went into beta, and now it's an app. These three co-founded and publicly released Honeyfi last month, a new money app designed for couples. I don't usually do profiles of fintech companies, but I thought Honeyfi's situation was relevant because the app is based on a very real challenge couples have. How do you find a way to manage your money that you're both happy with? So I'm grateful they're sharing today what has worked and what hasn't for them. We'll talk about some of the cool features of their app, but more along the lines of how you can apply these ideas with your own money chats and dates. In this episode, we'll go over getting started and more comfortable about money as a couple, setting things up so you can have some fun money, and working together to reach your shared goals and also your personal ones. Before we start, I want you to think about, how did you two handle your money when you were first married? For us, we pretty much combined our incomes. We got married during my winter break while in college, and we opened a joint checking account and a savings account, and most of our money did go there, but we kept our individual accounts for little expenses here and there, like eating out, gifts for each other, and a little bit of fun money. We felt that this was the easiest way to handle our finances, which sounds a lot like what Sam and his wife Lily did with their money.
My wife Lily and I, we completely combined finances. So basically, right before we were getting married, we decided to get a joint account and go that direction. And so in the beginning, it's kind of easy because in some ways you're just literally transferring all your money into this one account, and there's not like a super complicated way of implementing it, but it sort of has its own complexities as you get farther down the road. So for us, that was, I basically would do all of the things finance, essentially, like create the budget, track our spending, stuff like that. And at first that's fine and good, and then sort of it starts to be difficult because I'm like, well, I don't want to do all of this. I sort of have all of the burden of the responsibility of making this decision, and it's also just time I don't feel like dedicating to it. So that, of course, led to some tension and, led, as Rami would say, discussion, quote unquote.
That's a common, I guess you can call it annoyance. Even though you both want things to run smoothly, typically one of you is the go-to person. I write out the budget, sign up for apps, services, automate things, get everything set up. And I do enjoy it for the most part. And I love having this meaningful contribution and helping us out. But I also understand Sam when he says he doesn't want to do it all. And I've had to bring it up with my husband. Early on, honestly, my frustration came out more. Now I try. It doesn't always happen, but I do now try to frame it in a more positive way. I might say, hey, we have our anniversary trip coming up. I'd love to get your thoughts on a few things. Can we talk about it during our next money date? It's definitely less stressful than saying, I feel like I'm the only one who cares, which may or may not have been said at some point in our marriage. But don't beat yourself up if you feel like there's pressure going on with managing it all. Instead, recognize it as something that you should talk about. And really, it's a good thing you're asking your spouse to have more input. Now, if you do get your spouse on board, there's another situation you have to work out, especially if you're sharing most of your accounts.
It also was a little challenging because both of us, because we completely combined our accounts, we see literally every transaction that's coming in from the other person. And as much as I want to say I at times can be objective, it's hard when I see a transaction that is just on something I can't identify with as much. For my wife, she really likes a thin class that's expensive, but she really gets a lot out of it. For me, it's I really like coffee appliances and gadgets, basically. So she'd see my transactions and sort of scratch her head as to why I was making these purchases, and I would do the same for hers. And so there was almost like an oversharing that was happening. Mm-hmm. So we sort of had to work our way through it and find a better balance where we each had our own individual portion of a budget that we could work with.
What do you do with fun money? Those purchases that matter to you, but not necessarily your spouse. Whether you decide to keep individual accounts or allocate money with your joint or have some other method, that's on you. We're all adults. This is your marriage. However, there are a few things you should keep in mind if you want to win with both. Separate accounts doesn't mean secret. Financial infidelity can destroy your marriage. Do yourselves a huge favor and make sure you're still aware of what's going on with the accounts. Money dates and check-ins allow you to keep tabs on everything without that pressure. And also, you want to respect each other's interests. Don't keep separate accounts just because you're trying to avoid a fight. Sometimes when you're separating things, you're avoiding really an opportunity to talk about what really matters to you. Awareness of how we're spending can actually make our relationship better and make it easier to handle our finances. And one feature of Honeyfi's system I thought that was interesting was the tag system.
Most of the transactions we make are tags shared. So it's both me and my wife who are making them, something like rent or utilities or something like that. But some of the transactions are, directly to me. And so there's an easy way of avoiding a fight if the reality is we're both spending around the same amount each month and staying within what we said we would. It's minimized some of those fights because most of the time it's fine. We're staying within what we said we would.
It seems like a small thing, but how many times have you tried to figure out what bill counts as what? For example, when we got married, I brought baggage in the form of a cat. Over the years, my cat became ours, and so were the vet bills. Having a way to quickly tag expenses and add notes can get the ball rolling with those kinds of transitions that happen in a relationship. And that's what the team at Honeyfi want.
That's a part of what we're trying to do, right, is start those conversations, because that was something Lily and I just didn't have as much in the beginning of our relationship, and even when we merged finances, where we didn't have okay, what are the ground rules, or what's our plan here? It was just we combine. So now everything that's mine is yours. And that sounds great and simple, but it's not.
And this is a big issue for couples. How do you talk about those things? The fun spending, your goals, even your dreams. When we were first married, I think we were like most couples. We had some conversations, but they weren't really meaningful or deep. We had typical goals, retirement, buy a house, but it did take time for us to get into the more meatier things, like our why. For Rami and his wife, their epiphany started with buying a house.
So when we were in New York City, buying a home really wasn't an option, nor was it anything we were really interested in doing because we knew we weren't going to be there long term or long enough to make it a good decision. And I think it's when we started to talk about that major ownership of something that it really sparked that conversation on, well, what are we doing? And, what is our, because it's sort of a real true commitment. It's sad to say, even though we had 2 kids already at that point, which is a pretty big commitment from a financial perspective, it was the first real commitment for us together. So I think that's what sparked the initial change, or at least desire to look at changing. We were talking about retirement and what we want to do, and she said, well, I'd really like to have a small little, lake cabin or something. And I was like, oh, you've never ever mentioned that. And, again, we're nothing extravagant, but it's just from her childhood. Her parents had a small little cabin on the lake they would go to in the summers, and for her it was a great memory, and she was able to do that with our kids and grandkids and so on. So a lot of times you just don't have the awareness that you need to have those conversations, and even if you do, you may not have the time to do it, or you don't think it's important to take the time to do it. So if there are ways that can help that happen, then I think it really will help couples open up to each other about what they want.
Every couple has their own little system for managing money. The challenge for the HoneyFi team is to create an app that was flexible enough to deal with all these unique situations without being complicated.
So you can add all of your accounts and decide which one you want to share with your partner and how much. The idea isn't to say, okay, you're joining HoneyFi, combine everything and, make it work. The idea is, look, we'll make it work for wherever you are at in your stage of your relationship. Mm-hmm. But I think even if you're only sharing, let's say, one of your credit cards with your partner, it's still a way of sparking some conversation at a level that you're comfortable with, but that will hopefully get you on the same page. Because I think a lot of the tension and missed financial goals that happen is because of, more than anything, just never getting that conversation started and never really having much of a plan. Because if you don't have one, if you don't have a goal, you're obviously not going to hit it. So mm-hmm. I think just sparking that with whatever level you're at is what we're going for.
Special thanks to Sam and Rami for coming on the show. If you want to try out HoneyFi, please visit couplemoney.com/HoneyFi. I'm testing the app now, and so far, I'm really enjoying it. Besides what we talked about today, I love how easy it is to chat with your spouse through the app. You can not only tag your transactions, but give little reactions, kind of like you do on Facebook. So anything that can make it easier to have those conversations about money, I'm a big supporter of. HoneyFi is free and available on Apple and Android store. And as always, I have all the info and details in the show notes. Just head over to couplemoney.com. I'll have a full review up shortly once we finish out this month using HoneyFi. And if you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. You'll get the latest stories and tips on building your wealth together sent to you. We're out there on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Overcast, and more. You can also grab the feed off our site so you can listen to the show from whatever podcast app you prefer. Our theme song was written and performed by Gentle Regime. Additional music by Lee Rosevere and Music for Makers. Finally, I want to say thank you so much. Couple Money Podcast is made possible because of incredible listeners like you. Your tweets, reviews, likes, and more are so encouraging, and they help others get on top of their finances and work together. So if there's a topic or question you want to hear covered on the show, just let me know. I'd love to help out. I hope you have a great week. Take care.